Okay, welcome back to Conqueror and Commander. Today we're going to be talking about my Reki, the History of Kamigawa deck. Uh, just for everybody's information, if you go to puremtgo.com, look up Conqueror and Commander, you can see my deck written out nicely and neatly right there with links to the MTGO traders site for each of these cards so you can purchase them if you want. Before we get on to the actual deck tech, just want to apologize for being a little late with this set of videos. I got sick and got a cough, and I can almost guarantee you will have some sort of coughing fit when we're here going over this deck. And if you hear clicking in the background, it's me trying to suck on some cough drops. But this is the extent to which I try to get my videos out to you people. So hopefully you enjoy this. Anyways, this Reki deck is an update of a deck that I actually created about 3 years ago, and when I was playing recently, I was continuously getting bludgeoned by Sylvan Primordials and Boundless Realms and stuff like that, and I figured, you know what, why not join in the fun and turn into some of those those green decks as well. But I didn't want to use Prime Speaker because she has kind of a bad rep already. So I fished out this old Reki deck and updated it, and here we are today. Reki, as you can see, whenever you cast a legendary spell, you get to draw a card. So he's not nearly as abusable as like Captain Sisay, who can tutor up legends and has access to an additional color. But he can get you through your deck pretty quickly if you've got enough legendary stuff. Now, in my original version of this deck, it was all legendary creatures, and therefore it just sucked. So, I messed around with it more and added some of the green utility stuff and some additional ramp, and got it to where it is today, where it's pretty presentable. So, one thing about this deck is that it's not the fastest deck in the world. It does have the potential to be fast, especially if you've got Raphaelos in your opening hand and nobody can deal with him. But for the most part, it's not fast. So you're not going to be rushing out of the gates most of the time. There are 37 lands. The majority of which are obviously forests or snow-covered forests, because originally I had extraplanar lands in this deck and I took it out. Let's look at our mana help for this deck. It's pretty standard stuff. Sylvan Scryings, just to grab something like Gaia's Cradle or Oran Reef, the Fastwood. Gaia's Touch, what'll happen is you'll start cycling through your deck, drawing extra lands. You'll want to play them. Gaia's Touch will be able to help you out with that. And once you run out of lands, you can always sack it for additional mana. Azusa performs a similar function, although you can't sacrifice her. Omnath helps you out a ton because he can store up your green mana. And Early Harvest, again, untaps all your forests. Because of cards like Early Forest and Raphaelos, I tried to keep the forest count high. I think there's like 27 or 28 in this deck. And if you weren't a basic forest, you needed to have some sort of special purpose. Other than that, we've got our typical stuff here. Saki may seem a little goofy first because you're paying 4 mana to be able to tap her for 2 later on, but Reki's actually a shaman as well. And then there's a couple other random shaman in the deck. I think Thrun is one. Yeah, he's a troll shaman. And Yiva's one. She's a shaman. I know there's like one more, maybe somewhere around there. So Saki's ability comes up more than once. And then we got Vernal Bloom and everybody's friend, Boundless Realms. Patron of the Yoroki is awesome, especially if you have Raphaelos out, because it can essentially, quadruple your mana. Thawing Glaciers is there mainly because, like I said, it's not a fast deck. And so being able to pull forests out over time is helpful. We've got Temple of the False God and Ancient Tomb to help us out because there are a decent amount of high casting cost critters in the deck. Cage Sun, Soul Ring, and Raphaelos. Now in terms of card draw, we have some oldies but goodies. Sylvan Library and Greater Good, but again, we have a decent amount of fat. Momentous Fall helps out with that as well. Sword of Fire and Ice helps out because the protection abilities are relevant, and being able to just force through some damage is always fun. Kozilek's there as an anti-mill card and mainly to draw. You're going to have plenty of times where you're going to have a bunch of mana but no cards in hand, and Kozilek's going to help you out. On top of that, Reki himself ends up helping out with the draw as well. Now looking at the destruction, Ulvenwald Tracker helps out with our fat creature theme. Repeatable creature kill is always fun. Nature's Claim, the 4 life is negligible. Scavenging Ooze is Graveyard Hate. Beast Within, Corrosive Grip, Acidic Slime. And then, yes, Sylvan Primordial. You know, I guess there's an argument about whether or not this is better than Terastodon. Because Terastodon, if you want, you can actually blow up your own lands and get creatures. But I think what puts Sylvan over the top is that you get the ramp when you get with him, when you blow stuff up. So, he's good. And then Oblivion Stone, Duplicate, Mouth of Renom. People just forget about the Mouth a lot of times. And so they'll put out their small commander and you can blow it up. Glissa is nice, repeatable artifact hate. This next row is kind of our game changers. Akroma's Memorial. Again, we've got a lot of really fat dudes, and when you put the Memorial out there, it helps out a ton. Fertiloth, we have a decent amount of mana in the end game. So you can make a ton of dudes. Little sapperlings with him, and then hopefully Kamal will come around, or Akroma's Memorial. And you can pump them or get them through. Genesis Wave, everybody knows about Genesis Wave. Greater Hoof Behemoth. There's a card I added late because I wanted a card that just instantly won. I have a couple different tutors, like Court of Calling and Green Sun Zenith, that puts cards directly into play. And if you do that with Vertiloth, you know, you're not going to get all the sapperlings with him. And Kamal needs that extra mana investment. Behemoth doesn't need any of that stuff. He can usually just end the game on his own. I guess he's cheesy, but honestly, so is Genesis Wave and Boundless Realms. So if we're going to go that way, we're going to go all the way. We've got a decent amount of recursion in this deck. Praetor's Council, Genesis, Eternal Witness, Regrowth, Nauseous Survival, and What Woe. Got to remember that you can only use him before attacking. His ability actually comes up, so he's not horrible at all. These are all the tutors. Court of Calling, Primal Commands, Survival, Time of Need. Weatherlight's nice because it's a legendary artifact. And you can put something, you can put one card or more than one card. Typically, I never put more than 2 cards underneath it. And they were similar cards. Like, I'd put Akroma's Memorial and Kamal under it if I wanted. Or Crater of Behemoth or something. So, that worked out well. These guys are like my main fat. Molimo, Silvos, Masamaro, and Moltani. Honestly, it's kind of funny to say it, but Silvos is typically the smallest out of all these guys. But he tramples and he regenerates. I have these guys out with Crater of Behemoth. You should win. And then this last group is essentially our like miscellaneous legendary stuff. Meng Huo made the cut. Kesa did not, mainly because she had 1 less power. Baru is awesome if you have Boundless Realms out. Yiva is Flash. Thrun is basically regenerating Defender most of the time. Miri is actually pretty good, especially if you have a way to pump her. Almost everybody's playing Forest nowadays, and so the Forest Walk comes in handy a lot. Dosen helps out with making sure that people stick to their own turns. But you can't forget, if you have Dosen in play, that you're not going to be able to Court of Calling on an opponent's turn. Asao probably shouldn't be in the deck, but I was looking for additional very cheap legendary cards, and he was the only one that was semi-decent. He's not even that great, honestly. But, you know what? I mean, he does what he does, which is draw me a card when Reki's out, and he defends. And then Konda's Banner and Yumazawa's Jit are just both legendary cheap artifacts that I can cast and, you know, put on some of my stuff and help out with combat. So like I was saying, the deck isn't the fastest deck in the world. It can, it usually ends up dealing, like, late game explosions. it turns into almost sort of like a control deck. Not really. I can't with a straight face say that it's a legit control deck. But it's not fast, and it uses its graveyard a lot, and it has a decent amount of tutoring, and it can blow a bunch of stuff up. So, I don't know. That's typically what a control deck sounds like to me. But on top of that, it's got fat stuff, and Crater Hook Behemoth, and a bunch of mana ramp. And so, it's a fun deck. Let's just take a look at some of the legendary stuff that I did not include in this deck, and reasons why. Arashi actually probably could have a place in this deck. I just couldn't find room for him. I don't know if you noticed, but not a single creature flies on its own. So that's actually a pretty good card. Ayumi, I just didn't see enough legendary lands. Banias Kurin is awful. Elbrus, no. Azuri, not enough elves. I didn't put Kaldra stuff in. I've seen an occasional Reki deck that has like all the Kaldra stuff, but there's no way to really tutor it all up. In which case, it's just kind of random, and I just didn't feel like shoving it all in. Jedit Ojinin is actually, you can make a good argument for putting this guy in. Like I said, there are a lot of people playing forests out there, and he's a big dude with Forest Walk who puts out little Forest Walk dudes. So I can't say that you shouldn't put him in. He's not horrible in this current environment. Iromori is just too risky. You never know what legendary thing is going to come out of other people's hands. Joel Rael, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this card. Yes, you can use it to hose somebody when they wrath. I don't know. Jugan doesn't really fit into the deck. Kesa, I already said Menghuo beat her out. Kodama, his butt is too small. He dies in combat most of the time. Malera, people see Malera and they're like, oh my god, combo. And I just didn't want to have to deal with that. Mirari, I don't know, maybe. It could go in the deck. Meh. I'm not going to fault you if you want to put it in. Let's see what we got. Myojin of Life's Web, no. It's just cost too much. Namada, it's too much of a mana investment. Predator Flagship, actually, could help you out with your flying problems if you really wanted to. Use it. It's a legendary artifact, which means you get to draw. It's not horrible. Sakiko, I didn't need that much extra mana. Sasaya, I wasn't drawing that many lands. Seki is just goofy and weird. Sashiro, not enough snakes. Seaton, not enough druids. Blah, blah, blah. Shizuko, I didn't want to help everybody out with mana. Cauldron stuff. That which was taken was actually in the early version of the deck, but didn't make it. It just didn't come up enough for me to really want to use him. Vorinclex, you could shove in here if you want, but I didn't want to be that guy. I hate the card. I hate playing against it. I just think he's kind of really super annoying. If you're a Vorinclex fan, good for you. I'm not. I think that's about it. So there you go. It's a fun little deck. It's low pro because people see Reki and they're like, what are you going to do with Reki? I don't know. And so they don't often know what to expect from him. They're used to seeing him as like the first card that Captain Sisei decks tutor up. So, you know, they're like, okay, he's just draw, that's it. And then you can come out at the end game swinging with both hands. Anyways, I got 2 games here to show you. So take a look. Hope you enjoy the deck. Thanks.